Hello students, today is Friday, March the 5th, and we're going to be working on lesson number 5 today, building a decimal number line. And we practiced on working and building on number lines yesterday. We can continue to build on that. And on our next slide, here's a multiplication table. That's a resource for you. After that, the next two slides, these are places for you to insert a picture of your work if you're working in your math binder or in your notebook, so that your teacher will be able to see your work and give you credit for your work. Our learning target, I can reason about the size of decimals using a length model, a number line. And this is just a breakdown of our standards here. Our essential question, how does the place value of the digit within the base 10 system affect the value of the digit across the decimal point? And what is the relationship between fractions and decimals? So on our very next slide, decimal understanding. So we're going to click here to bring up our base 10 blocks. So you can kind of watch me first, and then I'm going to get you to go back and click on this part to bring up our base 10 blocks. Of course, you got the flats, the rods, and the units. So the flats represent 100, the rods represent 10, and the units represent 1. I'm going to bring over one flat. And remember, this represents 100. So we're going to start with this one because it represents 100. But even though it represents 100 different small units, for the purpose of our fractions, guys, it represents one whole. So this is one whole. So when we're comparing fractions or we're looking at parts of a whole, this is the whole. And it represents the number 1. And if I had 2 of these, this would be the number 2 to represent 2. So we're going to leave this, we're going to leave these fractions, we're going to leave these pieces up, the number pieces, but we're going to kind of go back to our lesson. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth a little bit with you. So I'm going back to our lesson. So we've already clicked on the base 10 blocks, which I have right here. And we talked about the fact that one flat is 100 units, but it's also one whole. It also represents just the number 1, which is one whole. Now, what would your pieces look like if you split that one whole, which is that flat, into 10 equal parts? So what would it look like if we split that one whole into 10 equal parts? All right, so we're going to use our number line to figure that out. So if I wanted to split this up into 10 equal parts, what would it look like? So you should be choosing the rods. So you should choose the rods to break it up into 10 equal parts. So I'll take it over here. So I'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So if I wanted to break away this one whole, if I need to put it into 10 equal parts, I would just choose 10 of these rods to break it apart. Now I just kind of click back to my slides. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And this one says, now, what would your pieces look like if you split that one whole into 100 equal parts? So now I'm going to go back to our base 10. So if I wanted to take this one whole and split it into 100 equal parts, which one would I choose? Now, I wouldn't choose the rods again because these are 10 equal parts. So you would go with the units. And you would need 100 of these if you wanted to split it up into 100 equal parts. Now, I'm not going to take 100 of them over there. But if I wanted to break it apart, it would be 100 of these units to represent one whole. So, but 100 of these again would represent one whole. 10 of these together, these rods represent one whole because they're equivalent. So there's more than one way to build a whole number. So we're going to go back to our slides, guys. And on the next one, this is a meter stick. It's a measuring tube, and it is different from a yardstick. The meter stick is used to represent our base 10 system is based off of the meter stick. All right, so here's a meter stick and here's a yardstick. So a yardstick is going to be smaller, 3 feet. It is smaller than a meter stick, but our base 10 system is based off of the actual meter stick. You have a total of 100 units in there, and you got the one halfway point right there is going to be 50, and it's got 10 equal parts. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So our base 10 system is based off of this. That is the difference between the yardstick and the meter stick. All right, so on our next slide, so how does this relate to decimals? All right, so let's take a look at our meter stick, guys. And right here, I've got one rod. So I've got one rod, which represents 10 units. And if you'll see, it is the exact same size. So you got one rod is the same as 10 centimeters. So one rod here is the same as 10 centimeters on our meter stick. And how many of these rods is it going to take to fill up this meter stick? So if we moved it up, it should equate to 10 of them. So we should have 10 of these that fills up the meter stick. And let's see here. So we got 3, 4, 5, which is right at the halfway point. And we got 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 10 of these rods make up the entire meter stick. That's how it relates to our place value system. All right, so on this next one, guys, we're going to be adding on to the decimal number line in which 1 meter is 1 whole. Now, this one's going to be just a little bit different because we're going to practice, but we're going to work with 2 wholes. So we're going to work with 2 wholes. So 2 of our meter sticks are going to represent 2 wholes. So when we click right here, you click on this link, guys, and this is what you bring up. So you got 2 of the meter sticks, and pretty much similar to a number line. Okay. So these are a number line, but they're just like meter sticks. And you've got 2 holes. So this one represents 1 hole. It goes from 0 to 1. And this one is the second hole, goes from 0 to 2. Okay. All right. So you're going to work, if you're on a live session in our live class, we're going to work in the groups to try to fill in and move these to where we think they should be. So basically, you're dropping and dragging where we think these should be. And for instance, we've got 0.5 up here. You got 1, 2, you got 3/10, 30 hundredths. What do we think? And if you're working at home, you're not in our live session, guys, you're going to still be able to practice and move these where you think. So I've got the 5/10. So I'm going to try to put this where I think it should be on our number line. All right, so 5/10 is basically 1/2 of 1. So 5/10 is 1/2 of 1. So I'm putting it right here in the middle. Okay, so that's 5/10, and this is our first hole. Okay, so 1 is 1 hole. So the number 1 should go right here on the end. And let's see, I'm gonna move that over just a little bit. All right, so what about 1.3? So this is 1 3/10. So that means I've already got 1 hole, and now I need 3/10 down here. So our example would be, we've already got 1/10. So that's what the 1 represents. And now I need 3/10. So I should be going down to the second one for this one. So 1.3 should be right here. So remember, whenever you have a whole number that's on the left side of the decimal, that means you already have one of these, at least one. And that means you should be working on your second number line. All right, like the 2, for instance, is just a whole number 2. that should be right here where the 2 is. And 1.7, that shows you that you've already got one whole and you got 7/10 of another. So that one's going to be down here. So I want you to work on building these number lines by dropping and dragging. Okay. All right. So for the next few slides, we've got just some comparisons here and some decimals that we're going to compare. Which decimal is larger? You got 1300s is how you read this one's in 2/10. So 1300s and 2/10. So we compare them, and you can actually use the zoomable number line if you want to use this to help you figure out which one is larger. Now when I go back here and I look at it and I compare these, the first thing I'm going to look at is using our place value chart. I'm going to look at the whole number. So on this side, the left, the whole number over here is 0. The whole number here is also 0. And then they both have a decimal in the next spot. And then let's move. We're going from left to right. In the tenths place, this is 1. This is 2. 2 is bigger than 1. So 2/10 is actually bigger than 1300. So 2/10 is bigger than 1300s. All right. So how much larger is 0.8 than 0.75? Okay, so how much larger is 8/10 than 7500s? So you can use our number line to tell us, or we can look at it and we can see that the difference is going to be 0.05. So 0.05 is actually the difference. So 75 to 80 is 5. We know that, but since we've got decimals involved, it's going to be 0.05. And our next one, what makes these decimals unique? So what makes these unique? Let's take a look at them. You've got 3/10, 30/100s. 3/10, 30/100s. So now when I go back up to my number pieces for this one right here, you see this is 3/10, and I've already got 30 of the units over here. So this is actually 30/100s. So 3/10, 30/100s. What makes them unique is that they are equivalent to each other. So these two are equivalent to each other. They're the same. And our next one, which decimal did you place first on the number line? All right, so just continuing on our slides, guys. So which decimal did you place first on the number line? So I'm going back to the number line that we had just a little bit earlier. So which decimal did you place first on the number line? So based off of these decimals, 500 should be the first one that you have on the actual number line. And I moved it from up here and I put it down here. So 500s. And where would you place 7800s on the number line? What about 1 and 3600s? So 7800s, we'll look at that one first. Where would I place 7800s on the number line? So 7800 is less than 1. It's less than 1 because there's nothing over here in the ones column. So there's nothing over here, and to represent a whole number, so that means it's less than 1. So 7800s. So 7800s. So remember, this is 100 right here. So from 0 to this 10, that represents 100s, 200s, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700s, and then we count up to 8. So 7800s will be right around in here. So 7800s, and our next one, 1.366. That's 1 in 3600s. So that means I've already got a whole number. So this represents 1. So now I need 3600s down here. So 36 will be 10, 20, 30, and you go to 5, and then 6. So 3600 will be right around in here for 3600s. 1 in 3600s. All right, so let's go ahead and move to our next one. So which decimal did you find the most challenging to place and why? So this is going to be for you. Write it down in your notebook. So which one did you find the most challenging to place and why? All right, so next up we got independent practice. So this one, guys, I've got them on our next 4 slides. So I've got them on our next 4 slides, but there is also on page 21 in your math binder. So they're on the next 4 slides, or also on page 21 on your binders. But if you decide to do them in your binder, remember, in order for your teacher to be able to see your work, you have to take a picture of it and insert it into the slides. And for this one, the title is Decimals on a Number Line. So the label, choose a decimal number, create a number line that shows the decimal below. So you're going to choose a decimal number. So you choose your own decimal right here. You choose your own decimal right here. And then you would draw a number line in here. So you create the number line right here to show that. And you can use the scribble tool. You can use the scribble tool to do it. So if I chose, let's see here. So we're going to go to our very next slide to actually start this work, guys. So for right here, this is just what page 21 looks like. So this one's what page 21. So if you're working in your binder on page 21, you're going to use your pencil just to draw it on the binder. But for anybody doing it on the slides, you just go to your next slide. So you choose a decimal, and you're going to type it in here. So if you chose, for instance, I would say if you chose 0.5, which is 5/10, so I would type it in there. And then the next one says create a number line that shows your decimal using this link. So you just click on the link right here, and you just got to kind of build. You got to build your decimal. Okay. So I'm going to go and I'm going to click New Drawing. So I'm going to click on New Drawing, and I'm going to use the pick a color. Okay, so I pick a color, and now I chose 0.5. So I'm building my number line now. All right. So I chose 0.5. I know this will be 0, and this will be 1. And I know that 0.5 is right in the middle, 5/10. So that is 5/10. Now I can go ahead and make 10 equal parts on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's 5. And right in the middle, right here, would be 5/10 for me. I've drawn my number line, and now I'm going to just save this image. So I'm going to save it, and when you click save on it, it shows up right here. All right. So now I'll be able to actually add this to my slides. All right, so and now I'm going to just go ahead and copy. So over here on the top right hand corner, I click these little dots. I can click copy. So I've copied my drawing. And back to my slides here, guys. It says upload your number line. So I've already just copied it. And all I need to do now is just right click. And then I'm going to paste the picture of my work in there. So I would paste it right here. Now I've got my number line inside of there. Okay. And on our next slide here, I've got explain using precise language how you know you have placed the decimal correctly on the number line. So you just type your answer in there. This is all independent work. So I'm going to go back just a little bit. So this is where I copied, pasted my picture in there. Now right here, guys, those of you working at home, you're not in our live session. You can go for instructions on how to build that number line again. All you got to do is click right here on this help button, and it's going to give you instructions on how you can do it again. There's more than one way to do it, but this is going to give you some instructions on additionally on how to do it. Okay. And lastly, you complete the independent work on the previous slides or page 21, and you also have to work on Dreambox. Remember, we need 5 completed lessons by the end of the day today.